Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, staff and us and our media back there. Thanks for joining us. It is 5 o'clock, the appointed hour for this planning meeting of council on, and I will call this meeting to order, noting that we have quorum. Councillor Vickers is not with us today. He had a conflict with the OFA AGM today, so he will not be joining us. I will first begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. We extend our gratitude to all Anishinaabe and Métis peoples and their descendants, past, present, and future, who continue to care for and inhabit these lands and tend these waters. I will ask you all to join me in a moment of reflection as we consider the business before us. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of interest around the table as we listen to this presentation? Seeing none, we will declare this planning meeting open at this afternoon. It's a zoning bylaw amendment discussion at 439001 Sydenham-Lakeshore Drive, a notice of revised application and public meeting. And I would just express to those listening and tuning in to this planning meeting that we're here to learn about a proposal to amend the land use planning permissions applying to certain lands in the municipality of Meaford. It's important to note that the Planning Act requires that a person who may later wish to file an appeal to council's decision on the zoning bylaw amendment application must either provide verbal comments today at this public meeting or provide written comments to council before the amendments are passed. The intention of this requirement is that only those people who have taken the time and the care to learn about the proposal and to engage in the planning process may have an opportunity to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. While council is legally required to make decisions that conform to the county and local official plans, our guiding policies encourage us to reach out to you, the members of the community, to hear your thoughts about the proposed changes. We have a variety of legal tools available to us that we can apply to development to help us ensure that new uses can coexist with existing uses with as minimal an impact as possible. So constructive comments will help us learn more about our neighborhood, which in turn will help staff and council select the right tools to manage change effectively and in a manner that honors our community values and priorities. We have no one registered for today's meeting, but the public would be given an opportunity to speak remotely or in person. And we encourage public participation. You do not have to be solely in support or opposition. It's okay to share your comments and thoughts about those elements that you do or that you don't like about a proposal, and to ask questions as well. So the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to any questions coming forward. But in some cases, we may need to have staff carry out research on matters that are brought forward and provide answers or additional information at a later date. So I will now call this public meeting to order. It's a public meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Meaford to consider a revised zoning bylaw amendment application for 439001 Sydenham-Lakeshore Drive in the rural settlement of Annan, located in the municipality of Meaford. It's a mandatory part of the planning process, which has been set out by the Planning Act. And based on the rules of the Act, there must be at least 20 days notice given to residents within 120 meters of the property. And I note that a notice was given of the zoning bylaw amendment was issued on November the 2nd, 2021. So that brings us to the start. And I will turn it over to Kirsten Morris, our planner, to share a brief description of the application and to provide us with any public and agency comments that you have received.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. So this property is zoned Hamlet Commercial, which permits a range of commercial uses and historically was known as the Ann and General Store. The existing building has previously been converted into a total of 4 residential apartment units, and it's been used for residential use solely since about 2011. This application was circulated in August, and a public meeting was held on September 20th. 2021, requesting a zoning amendment to rezone the lands from the commercial zoning to a site-specific hamlet residential zone in order to facilitate conversion of the interior of the building into a total of 3 residential apartment units. After the public meeting was held, the applicant requested that instead of rezoning to allow 3 residential apartments, they would prefer to rezone the lands to permit a total of 4 residential apartment units, which is what the building is currently existing as. Staff had advised at that time that the application would need to be recirculated to the public to notify adjacent landowners of the change to rezone the property to allow for 4 apartments rather than 3, which is why the additional public meeting is being held today, in case there are any concerns from any members of the public or external agencies with an increase in the number of units to 4. The existing building and parking spaces encroach onto the municipal road allowance, which could be remedied with execution of a site plan agreement or an encroachment agreement through the required site plan approval process. And the applicant has submitted a planning justification letter and a septic letter in support of the amendment. For comments, the county submitted updated comments just indicating they still have no concerns, provided safe and adequate servicing can be ensured. The municipal building department did a septic review and they indicate that we don't have a permit for an existing septic system on the lands, but they don't have any concerns regarding site suitability for a septic system, and a new septic is required for the 4 residential units. Grey Stowell Conservation Authority did not submit updated comments, but on the previous circulation, they had indicated that they have no objection to the subject proposal. And thank you. That's all I have right now.
Oh, you have. Thank you, Kirsten. So now we'll go to the applicant's planner and the applicant to bring forward any comments they have, review the proposal in more detail. Ron Davidson and Keith Osborne, are you with us?
I am. So how are you tonight?
Well, welcome.
Good. It is Ron Davidson, and I'll be very, very brief. So as Kirsten indicated, there are 4 apartments in the building right now. There have been for quite a while. The owner thought that his son wanted to take possession of the total top floor and make it into 1 unit. And he learned that that's not the case. And he'd like to stick with 4. So in hindsight, we should have just asked for that, but we didn't. And so we had to kind of sort of start over or take a couple steps back. There's no issues there. The septic system, a brand new one, is going to be constructed. So there's no concern there about whether or not a permit had been issued, I guess, or hadn't been issued for the existing one. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but a brand new septic system will be installed for this very, very shortly. That's all for my presentation.
Well, thank you, Ron. Is Keith there? Does he have anything he'd like to add?
Nothing to add, just thanks to everybody.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any pre-registrations for this meeting this afternoon, but I will ask Margaret to confirm there's nobody tuning in that would like to speak. All right, well, this is over then to council. If you have any questions or comments on this application, Councillor Kentner.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, a question, I guess, to Kirsten. How many parking spaces? It shows 7 on the drawing, but you can't go to any grocery store or any kind of shopping walking from Annan, so you could very well have 8 cars.
Yeah, so I would have to look into the zoning requirement for apartments. I believe it's 1.5 spaces per unit from the zoning bylaw.
I just have one other question, if I may, and that's just simply, when is it proposed that an encroachment agreement will be developed?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. That would be at the site plan approval stage. So that would be following the zoning process.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Kirsten. Concerning the parking spaces, will there be one that is designated accessible? Will there, I don't know if that's going to be necessary in the apartments, but it could be. And usually the accessible parking is a little larger, a little wider, and so will there be one? Is that a regulation for a 4-apartment unit building?
Thank you. Through you again, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so we would review that through the site plan approval process, and we would ensure that accessible parking would be provided based off of the zoning bylaw standards. So I do believe that one space would be required, but I would have to look into that further through the zoning.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further from council? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kirsten, I'm just wondering if I could ask you, so the remainder of the property, would that just be basically considered a green space or nothing really changing in the remainder of the piece?
Oh, yeah, so they're, from my understanding, they aren't proposing any further site alteration other than just rezoning so that they convert the interior of the building. So currently, I believe it's just open space, the extra area.
Okay. Anything further? Any good? That's all the questions I think we have. Over to you, Kirsten. Was there anything else that you wanted to add at this point?
No, not at this time.
At
Thank you.
this time? And then I'll turn it back to you, Ron, if you have anything further, a response to these questions or anything further?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
All right. Well, with this brings to a conclusion, this planning meeting. I want to thank you for joining us today. This matter will now be referred back to Development Services staff to follow up on any additional information required and the report that they will bring forward to council for further deliberation when all of that is completed. I just want to let our listening audience know that if they would like to receive a mailed notice of a future decision on this file, to please provide contact information to the Development Services Department by email at planning@meaford.ca. That brings us to a close of this planning meeting, and thank you all for attending on this snowy Monday afternoon, and I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming.